Hello, today I am going to talk about Reservoir Dogs, a film by Quentin Tarantino. So watch and listen. Quentin Tarantino is one of my favourite directors, and Reservoir Dogs is his first movie. At the time before he made this movie, Quentin Tarantino actually worked in a Blockbuster selling movies. And when he was working in Blockbuster, he wrote 2 scripts. One of the scripts was for True Romance, and the second was for Reservoir Dogs. The story goes that he actually sold the script for True Romance for $30,000 to finance Reservoir Dogs, so he could direct it himself. He actually wrote this movie in a certain way so that it would be quite cheap to make. The majority of the movie actually takes place in one location, in a big warehouse, which is quite cheap to rent and is quite big, so it's easy to film a lot of scenes. He actually wrote this movie thinking a lot about how he was going to make it and how he could make it for quite cheap as well, which is very smart. The fact that it would be very cheap to make meant that Quentin Tarantino didn't have to compromise on Reservoir Dogs. So if he actually got more money from studios, they would maybe request changes to the script. They would give him tips about directing. He didn't want any of this. He wanted full control over his movie. Also, Harvey Keitel, a very popular actor, was interested in the movie, and this gave Quentin Tarantino legitimacy. Now, the story behind how he got involved is quite interesting. Tarantino had a friend who was in acting class, and his acting teacher was married to a friend of Harvey Keitel. Tarantino gave his friend his script, who gave it to his acting teacher, who read it and really liked it, and gave it to his wife, who also read it and really liked it, who then handed it to Harvey Keitel. And Harvey Keitel read the script and loved it. And he actually contacted Quentin Tarantino saying that he wanted to be in the movie and he wanted to help him produce the movie. His involvement gave Tarantino a lot of legitimacy and actually helped him raise more money. So in the end, Tarantino had about $1.5 million to make this movie, a lot more than what he got for selling True Romance, $30,000. However, Tarantino has said that he could have made the exact same movie for $30,000. $1.5 million just made it a little bit easier and probably quicker. So Reservoir Dogs is a heist movie. It is about a group of robbers who plan a diamond heist, but it's a little bit different to the standard heist movie in the fact that you actually never see the heist. You don't see the heist, you only see the planning of the heist, how the group gets together, and then the aftermath of the heist. You never actually see the heist. It's not really a heist movie. It's about a lot more than that, and this is one of the reasons why I like the movie so much. It's just different to other movies. Now, one of the reasons I love Tarantino, and a lot of people love Quentin Tarantino, is because of his dialogue. He writes amazing dialogue. And what is so good about Quentin Tarantino's dialogue is that it is grounded in reality. The main characters in Reservoir Dogs are all robbers, so they're not very nice people. But the first scene in the movie is all of these characters in a diner just chatting to each other. They're just talking, and they're actually talking about tipping. Now, tipping is a big thing in America, and these characters have very strong opinions on the tipping culture, especially Steve Buscemi's character. Now, Steve Buscemi's character is talking about how he doesn't believe in tipping for certain professions.
You don't tip?
No, I don't believe in it.
And the funny thing is that Steve Buscemi in an interview actually said he's a good tipper and Quentin Tarantino is the bad tipper. So Tarantino actually wrote this dialogue because these are his real beliefs. He doesn't really believe in tipping, and this just makes this scene really, really authentic. And it makes you like all of the characters as well, which is really important, especially because they're not doing very nice things in the movie, which means that when something bad happens to the characters, it has a much larger impact. And another thing I like about Reservoir Dogs is the style of the movie. So all of the characters are wearing the same clothes, they're all wearing black suits, and it looks really cool. And it also creates iconic imagery, a lot like some of Quentin Tarantino's other movies such as Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill. The clothes that the characters wear always become quite iconic. A good example of this is in Kill Bill, and the main character, played by Uma Thurman, is dressed in a yellow jumpsuit, a completely yellow jumpsuit, and she's very tall and quite pale with long blonde hair, and with the backdrop of Japan, it does create very iconic imagery, and I really like the style of this movie, and the imagery of Kill Bill has always been stuck in my head ever since, and it is the same for Reservoir Dogs as well. So all of the characters are in black suits. It looks really, really cool. I love the way this movie looks, especially because they're all wearing black suits and white shirts, and by the end of the movie a lot of their white shirts are just stained red with blood. And due to the tight budget of the movie, all of the suits were actually donated by the fashion designer. And if you look closely, the character played by Michael Madsen is actually wearing a suit jacket and suit trousers from different suits. And he's wearing cowboy boots. Now, he said in an interview that he couldn't find black shoes and all he had was cowboy boots, so he wore cowboy boots. And then they actually integrated that into the movie. So there is a scene where he uses a knife to torture a police officer, and he pulls the knife out of his cowboy boot. And this is a great scene. And this was because he just happened to be wearing cowboy boots at the time. And Tarantino said, "Why don't you pull the knife out of your cowboy boot?" And he did, and it created an amazing scene in the movie. Also, Steve Buscemi isn't actually wearing suit trousers. If you look closely, he is wearing black jeans because he couldn't find suit trousers. So it is all of these touches that I really like about the movie. And all of these details really tell you a lot about the production of the movie as well. Now, one of the most iconic scenes in Reservoir Dogs is the torture scene. So Michael Madsen is torturing a police officer, and he has tied him up in the warehouse, and he takes a knife out of his cowboy boot and he cuts his ear off. It is a horrible scene, but the reason this scene is so iconic, well, there is two reasons. First, the music. Now, the song played in this iconic scene is Stuck in the Middle of You by Stealers Wheel, a Scottish band from Paisley. In this scene, Michael Madsen starts to dance to this song. And then he cuts the police officer's ear off. Now, Michael Madsen said that after he cut the ear off, well, he didn't cut the ear off, it was a fake ear. He was standing there with this ear in his hand and he didn't know what to do with it. So that's why he spoke into it. He actually talked into the ear.
Hey, what's going on? You hear that?
Now, this is a hilarious scene, and it was completely improvised by Michael Madsen in the moment. A funny thing about using this song, the budget for the music in the movie was $13,000, and Tarantino went to the record company and asked to use this song. The record company asked him what his budget was, and he said $13,000, so they said, okay, the song is going to cost $13,000. All of the budget for the music in the movie was used for this one song, and in my opinion it was worth it because it made the movie. Now, before I finish talking about Reservoir Dogs, I'm just going to talk about my favourite scene in the movie. It's a really good scene. It is when all of the characters are choosing their names because they don't know each other's names. The whole idea of the movie is that everyone taking part in the heist actually doesn't know each other, so they don't know each other's names, where they're from, and this protects their identity. There is a scene where they are all picking their nicknames, and all their nicknames are colours. So there's Mr. White, Mr. Orange, Mr. Blue. Quentin Tarantino actually acted in this movie, and he is given the name Mr. Brown, and he isn't happy because he thinks it makes him sound like Mr. Shit. This is an amazing scene from an amazing movie, and yeah, I love Reservoir Dogs. It's great, and I really recommend that you watch it as well if you haven't seen it already. Quentin Tarantino is one of my favourite directors, maybe my favourite. I also love his movies Kill Bill, Inglourious Bastards and Django Unchained. These are all great movies from a great director, and I'll probably talk about them in the future. That is all for now. Thank you for watching and for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.